Hi Nasdaq followers, this is Emily Drury here for another episode of Nasdaq Spotlight. Thanks for following along. Today I am joined by two wonderful guests, the co-founders of DocDoc. We've got Grace Park and Cole Surchek. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having us here.
So you're visiting from Singapore, so we're
Yes.
really excited to have you here at Nasdaq in Times Square, center of the world. Please tell us about your company and what you guys do.
So DocDoc is the world's first patient intelligence company. And what we do is we connect patients and doctors based on the doctor's unique expertise and the patient's unique needs. See, one of the biggest problems in all of healthcare is actually connecting patients and doctors. I mean, you can go online, you can find doctor directories, which are like phone books that are online, or you can go to a general practitioner or a friend and say, hey, do you know a good doctor for this? But in reality, patients have no idea what they're actually buying in healthcare. And in fact, what's even more startling is that what you pay in healthcare and what you get in terms of quality, they're not even correlated, forget related. And so we've created the world's first patient intelligence company that actually matches patients and doctors based on real data that's quantifiable. And so we're a patient empowerment company.
So you told me before that there's a personal story behind why you started the company. Can you give us a little background?
Sure. Well, so our daughter was born healthy.
We're a husband-wife team.
Yes. And at her 100-day checkup, it's just a normal routine checkup. The doctor said she had a rare liver condition and she needed a liver transplant. And for us, for me personally, I'd been in healthcare for the last 10 years prior to that. Last role being at Medtronic, managing director in Asia. And we just had a terrible time, a very difficult time in finding the right doctor. And so when Cole, he donated a piece of his liver, and as he was recovering in the ICU, that's when we figured out if we had such a hard time in finding the right doctor and team for our daughter, what it could be like for all the other
What it
patients.
almost certainly was like for everyone else. And it was a very weird moment. As I'm sitting there in the ICU, I was talking to Grace, and it was just like, who are we as humans if we see this problem, we experience it in such an intimate way, and we do nothing to fix it? Right. You know, I mean, who are we? I mean, at the end of the day, capitalism works when entrepreneurs step up and solve real problems that they know better than other people. Right? That's what makes the world a better place, and that's why we started DocDoc. Patients need access to data that will allow them to make informed decisions about their healthcare. It's like, duh, that sounds like a really obvious thing, but it doesn't exist. Because it's really hard to build. And it turns out that collecting the data, structuring the data in a way, and you know, being an entrepreneur, there's a real journey that happens here. This is not, you know, when you're actually innovating, I know everyone wants to pretend like it's super easy and it just overnight all works. It doesn't work that way. If you're really doing innovative things, you try, you fail, you adjust. You try, you fail, you adjust, in that iterative process. And we got real lucky because one of my best friends at business school happened to be a world leader in clinical informatics. His name is Dr. Dan Riskin. And Dan came into the team and really said, okay, this is a beautiful vision. I know how to build it. Here we go. And, you know, away we go. 23,000 doctors later, and 6.5 years later, in 8 countries. And we are the world's most sophisticated doctor discovery company. And now there's these companies in the US that are making a lot of noise, like Haven. You know, it's backed by Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and Jamie Dimon, and you hear their plans now, what they're doing, the state of the art. And you know what that is? Matching doctors and patients with data based on a condition and procedure level of granularity, what we've been doing for years in Asia. So it's just cool to be solving a real problem in a way that actually helps people.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful that you took this situation that happened to you in real life and committed yourselves to solving the problem for everyone else. You're working in an industry, though, that has been the same way for a very, very long time.
Oh, it's nightmarish.
What has it been like disrupting that industry?
Nightmarish. Take all the worst parts of a nightmare. Take all the worst parts of a nightmare. Like, it's super important. There's a lot of stress, and you can't make anything happen. Like, it's a nightmare. It's everything of it's hard. You just can't give in, and you just can't give up. And you just have to keep pushing. So what I tell our team is the same thing I'll tell you today. DocDoc is absolutely the path of inevitability. The world will be this way. The question is do we have the courage to make it happen, or are we going to let somebody else do it? But I promise you, by the time you're having kids, those children will be consuming healthcare based on data. That's just what it's an inevitable foregone conclusion. And I'm just thankful that we had the courage to stick with it.
I am too. So, sorry, Grace, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in this sector, the healthcare, I mean, we still see fax machines, right? This is the state of the art in terms
amazing,
of technology, and it's highly conservative because that's just very traditional conservative sector, right? And I think for us, it's not alienating or disrupting any one player or stakeholder in the healthcare ecosystem. It actually is benefiting each and every player, whether it's the patients, it's the providers, it's the insurance companies. Can we find a tech solution in which all stakeholders are elevated in a solution?
You can create Pareto optimal win-win situations. That's what we've done.
Let's talk about the tech.
Okay.
Of it. So not to dig very deep into the AI element of it, but how did you decide what pieces to implement technology into, and how did that go?
All right, so Dan, all right, here's part of the reason why it's so hard to build things in healthcare. And we're going to, I guess one of the questions we talked about is this idea about lessons. And one of the biggest lessons for investors and entrepreneurs in the space, in health tech specifically, money doesn't buy product. Right, so you have these governments that will spend 10 or 15 billion dollars to create an electronic medical record system and get no adoption. So the amount of money you spend in the space doesn't get you product market fit at all. And in other industries, you can kind of buy your way into it. Healthcare is not like that. So one of the biggest problems in healthcare is you have to be able to build the underlying knowledge architecture in a way that's really robust. And so, like, if you think about an e-commerce company, their knowledge model is very simple: SKUs, prices, maybe a few other elements. But in healthcare, for our data model, it took 23 doctors 3.5 years to build, because we had to take 220 procedures, or specialties, match them to 150,000 procedures, and then match that to 500,000 conditions, just so that we could, when we went out into the industry and we started collecting the data, we had the underlying scaffolding to be able to use that data. So the hardest part about healthcare is you have to know a lot about databases, a lot about data science, and then you also have to know a lot about actual medicine. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard piece, is putting all of that together. But to your question more specifically about what are we doing in technology? So we're narrow AI. We've created something called HOPE. It's the heuristic for outcome, price, and experience. And what that is it's highly structured data that's collected that basically connects, it analyzes a doctor's procedure patterns and their educational background, and at a condition and procedure level, compares those doctors based on outcome, their predictive analytics measure for how good they are at treating a condition or performing a procedure, price, what they charge, and experience, which is bedside manner. So that's that. I mean, in a nutshell, the approach we're using is not so much deep learning, not so much machine learning. It's more structured data.
Bringing it all together to one place. So for someone who's watching this right now, how can they apply this to their life? So you're in 8 countries.
Yeah.
Share which countries, and for the people watching, like, what would this look like?
Yeah.
So we're in Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Philippines, India, Korea, and Hong Kong. Did I get
Thailand.
everything? Thailand. Sorry, I missed one of those. Sorry.
I made you list them on the spot. That was pretty good.
So in terms of the business model, we're free to patients and free to doctors. There's no conflict of interest in terms of when a match occurs, right?
We don't care if you take one of our matches. Mm-hmm. So we're doing this clean, all the way through it. So the journey would be, if you're a patient, if you're a policyholder, and your insurance is enrolled in our service, then when you click Find a Doctor in your insurance app, then you automatically are transferred to one of our doctor discovery doctors, and that doctor is just there to be your friend. Mm-hmm. That doctor is just there to answer any questions you have, to understand what's going on, and then to do what we call a closet diagnosis. Based on what you're telling them, they get an idea what's going on. They then triage you. They either say you need a physical exam with a general practitioner, so we're going to go ahead and set that booking up for you and recommend a couple for you based on your location and the doctors we have in our network. Or they say, a telemedicine consultation is going to fix you right as rain. Let me immediately set that up for you. Or they say you need to see a specialist. For example, an orthopedic surgeon that subspecializes in anterior cruciate ligament repairs. And then they send you a doctor discovery report that was custom made for you that recommends 3 orthopedic surgeons in your location, and it compares them based on outcome, price, and experience for anterior cruciate ligament repairs against the mean orthopedic surgeon in the market, and then it has their profile. And then the doctor says, you don't have to pick any of our doctors. But any doctor you do pick, please ask them about outcome, please ask them about price, and please talk to them about their experience. Because these 3 discrete variables really should help you make a more informed healthcare decision for yourself or your family.
So it's a really great user experience, it sounds like, and it's really about
it's important for
informing
us.
consumers
Exactly,
as well.
exactly. We actually build the awareness and how to structure their thinking in what quality is and how to find their doctors for their particular needs.
Our net promoter score in the last 6 months was 96. And that is insane. And it's not because we're amazing. We're not. The status quo is awful. So okay against awful looks fantastic, right? And that's really what we're up against, is awful. And we're doing okay. And we're getting, the cool thing is there's so much room to improve.
You're making progress.
Yeah.
That's like the key
important
point
thing.
is that there's so much to
And
be disrupted. There's
the
so much.
insurers are starting to bite. Do you have any idea how hard this has been? How many times I would go into an insurer and I would say, look, this makes so much sense. We can save you a ton of money. We can really differentiate your product in the market. We can boost your engagement. And they would just go, but. And now they're going, hey, we need to do something. We need to adjust. One of the big stories here is how insurance is going to be reinvented. In any major city you go into in the world, you look up at the biggest buildings, and they're all Allianz, Prudential, AXA. These insurance is massive, and it's a massive global industry, and they're fundamentally selling a commodity product that makes reasonably good margins and huge free cash flow. And they're using very little technology. They are so ripe for massive disruption, and that disruption is going to create a huge amount of consumer surplus to the policyholder. And we're not necessarily driving the disruption, but we are definitely going to make those policies far better for the end policyholder. Because the future of insurance is really about solution selling. You buy health insurance, that policy not only covers your financial obligations, but it actually helps you when you get sick. You buy auto insurance, that automobile, you get in a car wreck, we're going to help you find the right mechanics, because we don't want you to get taken advantage of any more than you do.
Right.
So it's aligning those incentives. It's all lined up here. It's just fighting the organizational inertia, and we're doing it, and it's working.
Yeah.
It's been a fight, but we're making it happen.
You obviously have come a long way, and you have a long way to go. What does being associated with Nasdaq do for DocDoc as a company?
Well, Nasdaq is one of the marquee global exchanges, particularly for technology. It is the marquee exchange. And so for us to really build into the full global vision, we're going to need access to deep, liquid capital markets. And Nasdaq's as good as it gets for that. So it's an honor for us to be here.
Yes.
And to just kind of start this journey with you. We're not going to go public tomorrow, or maybe not even in the next immediate future. But it's wonderful to just start the discussion with you, because ultimately this is where everyone wants to be.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like we could continue the conversation for a long time, but our Facebook viewers are still there and watching. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot. We really
Emily.
appreciate it.
So thank you, Nasdaq Spotlight followers, for tuning in. You can find more Nasdaq Spotlight videos at facebook.com/Nasdaq. And a reminder, these are the co-founders of DocDoc, so go and check them out. I'm Emily Drury. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.